Hey, this is Susan Thetford, and this is a first. I've never done one of these live shows, and when my editing software went kaflooey last night, I thought I've got to do something because I keep trying to get something out every single week, and this is just editing is the hardest part of what I do. The real estate part is a lot of fun. So if you're the first time joining me here on the live show, thank you. This is my first time of doing one, so we'll see how it goes. Let me know if it looks like it, if it'd be something that would be helpful to you. If it also looks like something that would be fun to do on a regular basis, let me know a good time for you so that if you happen to be watching this later on at your leisure, maybe I can do it at a time where you could be on and I'll ask some live questions. But if you find that you have questions, please put them in the comments and I'll come back to this and answer them as I see things come up. So if you're new to me, I am Susan Thetford. I'm a realtor here in the Nashville, Tennessee area. This is the Nashville Redefined show. As a native Nashvilleian, I have found that Nashville has changed dramatically from a sleepy, wonderful town that I grew up in to being something that people know about worldwide. And we have changed quite a bit. I don't think there's any, it's just different. I mean, life is just different, right? So I no longer can say to someone the directions, past the fifth house on the street on the right, and take a left and you'll get to the store that you're looking for, because that house may not even be a house anymore. So us Nashvilleians are having to get used to some changes. But Nashville is a wonderful place, and we have been top 10, top 20 cities, the highlighted and Forbes and all the national magazines, Wall Street Journal, for years now, and that has made massive changes in people looking at us. They're looking at us because of we're a very diverse economy. Between, it's not just music, it's certainly not just healthcare, it's not just banking, it's not just manufacturing. We're a great place for entrepreneurship too. So all those things put together, and then you add COVID. So a lot of people trying to leave their cities because they can actually work from anywhere. We are highlighted, and we have made some massive changes. I'm seeing so many people recognize, I want to move into Nashville. I can work from home now. Your cost of living, the tax situation is such that I can maybe even have a little less income. But at the same point, I'm not paying the huge, exorbitant high property taxes, or they're not paying some of the income taxes, state income taxes, that they're finding Nashville to be a wonderful spot. Plus our lifestyle and more of a conservative atmosphere than some areas. So what that brings me to is this. A lot of people are finding trouble, as we are having all over the country, problem finding inventory, problems finding a home for people, because you want what you want. If you want a 4-bedroom house 15 minutes from downtown, and you want to have a 3-car garage, and you want to have what you want, and then with your income, I've got to, when I'm doing the search for you, find all the things that I can find for you within some of your most important parameters. And so anytime I'm talking to someone about what it is they want here in the Nashville area, what's going to make them happy in a home, we first have to understand the budget. And that seems maybe picky, or maybe, it's tough to talk about money. But the last thing in the world I want to do is have you fall in love with a home, but it's way out of your budget, or not be able to find the home that you want because I'm not aware of what you can spend. So frankly, that's most important. Finding a lender here in this city that we as realtors recognize can and will get the job done, and won't just tell us something to get an offer approved. All those things are important. Plus, then having a very strong concept of exactly what you need. Have a wish list, but then have that wish list of a priority of importance. So it may be schools, it may be proximity to downtown, it may be proximity to the rivers and all the fun things that we have to do around here. Have that strong list. So once I've talked to somebody about their strong list, we know exactly what their budget allows. We know exactly how much they can spend. I'm finding some people going, I just can't find the house that I want within those parameters. It's just not doing it. So we'll also look at buying a property. We'll also look at building a home. Today's show, we're going to talk about just a few bare essentials on each section of building your own home in the Nashville area. As a general contractor, now retired, but I do have my general contractor's license. I did build for a number of years before this last recession, national recession. And after that, it just became too expensive for me to do that. And I'll explain at some point, but I'm a general contractor. So I have an understanding of the entire process, so I can help lead you through it. Today's show is to share with you some of those basic concepts. And if that's something you want to know more about, then we can certainly have that conversation. So let's get started. Obviously, and I've made some notes for myself. So let's assume that you've done the process and we haven't found the house that you want and want to explore building a home. Here's how development naturally works. When I first started building homes within the area known as Green Hills that I worked a lot of, which is about 15, 20 minutes from downtown, depending on traffic now, what I found, there's no such thing as a vacant lot. I mean, there are just very, very, very few neighborhoods where there's no home on it. So we were doing what was called an infill lot, taking a home that maybe didn't have good bones and had been used as rental property and it was not in great shape. But great proximity, great mature trees, beautiful, maybe 8-foot ceilings. And of course, when somebody's building an expensive home now, especially, they don't want 8-foot ceilings. Taking those homes down and building what some people would call a McMansion. Now, I don't think I did that because that sounds kind of detrimental, but building a home to specifications of what I, as a realtor, understood people were looking for. So 10-foot ceilings at the time, not building the typical traditional front entry hall, living room on the left, dining room on the right, that kind of home. People were looking for more of a custom kind of look. That's what I was doing, was finding older homes that didn't have good bones, but were a great location, taking them down and building a new home. That's called spec building, whereby I use my money or construction money to build a home that I think the market's going to want, building that home out and then selling it. That is spec building. And there are still builders who are doing that exact thing, not the huge volume builders. The volume builders, like a Pulte or a Dries that you may be aware of, they go in and they find maybe a farm. As progress has moved out, things are getting more rural. We're building toward that, and you've got this town sprawl, the city sprawl, Hendersonville, Mount Juliet, Nolensville in Williamson County, Spring Hill, Thompson Station. All of these places are really growing as people are flooding here to the Nashville market to look for homes. The only way you're going to find property in these kind of locations is maybe someone has a farm and they sell that 100-acre, 200-acre farm to a developer who puts in the road, water, sewer, and then sells a bank of lots, maybe 20 to 30 lots, to one or several builders. The builders then have the control of that lot. So if you see a beautiful lot in a development and you or I can't walk in and say, we want to buy this lot and we want to bring in our own builder. No, they have the control of it. They typically have several different blueprints or floor plans that you can choose from, and maybe different elevations that you can choose from of that house. And you can kind of semi-custom build it, is what they call it. Some are more custom-y than others, but you make it your own, but using their builders, their subs, their lot, possibly their construction money. Many times they have construction money. You put a house under contract, you pay your down payment, then you pay for upcharges when you want to make some additional charges, but you actually have a permanent loan at the end of the construction cycle. Currently, that's taking 5, depending on how big the house is. But obviously 5 months to maybe even a year, 14 months, if you're talking a 6,000 square foot house and it's complicated. So each situation is different, but in that situation, you would be working with the builder who has the control of the property himself. So you can't bring in your own builder. If we're lucky enough, possibly, to find an infill home, I'll give you some examples of what we're finding. Let's pretend like you had you wanted a 15-minute drive from downtown Nashville. You wanted your children in particular schools. So, and you want an acre lot. This is just happened, so I can give you exact figures. And you want an acre lot. You want good mature trees. You want within a certain school district. There was a ranch home that came on the market that someone had been there for 30, 40 years. The family estate owned the property and they decided to sell it. That home could have been one of two markets, and it was marketed one of two ways. It could have been a great home for someone to buy, to get into that location and to renovate as they could afford to renovate it, or do a little renovations, new bathrooms, new kitchens, that type of thing, and hold it. Or could have been, and it was marketed as a possibility of a tear down, an infill home. Now that ultimately means you've got two sets of buyers vying for that same home. That's exactly what happened. That home actually sold for $476,000. This was September of last year. They've scraped the lot. And now what's going on is a new construction home that's going to be marketed probably about 1,718. To give you a very general rule of thumb, a lot value to end market value of about 30%, maybe 40% even, is a good rule of thumb on that. So if they bought it approximately 500, it's going to be approximately $2 million at least house that's going to have to go on to it. That's where it's working. So that somebody could have bought it at 470, 480, and then planned to put in new bathrooms, new kitchens, because it definitely needed all that. But, by the time you put another 100, 150 in it, the builder bought it. So that's now in a neighborhood is shifting up, and it's becoming basically $500,000 dirt for 1 acre, 15 minutes from downtown, and becoming now $2 million houses. So that puts it out of most people's budgets. I mean, that's totally it. But let's talk about this. Maybe, okay, that's fine. $2 million is your budget, whatever it is. I'm just giving you this example. What would be the process if you said, I want to buy that property, I want to tear down my house. Now what's the property? How do I find a builder? How do I go about this? First of all, we have to get your funding in place, knowing that you're going to be building with a construction loan in all probability. And then once that construction loan is, once that home is finished with construction, you have a use and occupancy. I won't dive down that well, but you've got, and it's ready to move into, then you put some permanent financing on it. You could have maybe either gotten your construction loan, construction to permanent, or then go get a second permanent loan, pay off all the construction costs, pay off your builder, pay off everybody who's done any work on that house. And then you have a long-term loan on that property. Lots of variations of what you can do. And that's why having a lender who knows what they're doing is super important to give you all the scenarios, because what's right for one person may not be right for another. So let's say you've got your financing. Now what? Well, you got to have some plans, right? You actually can't get your construction financing if you're doing it that way. You can't get construction financing without having a full set of architectural plans, a full set of takeoffs, meaning the cost of each piece of that plan, plumbing, electrical, rough ends, all of your, your finishes, a complete takeoff of all those costs. That plus the, the builder cost fees, all that involved with it, plus the lot takedown, plus the full set of architectural and plans, then that all goes to your lender for an appraisal, and then you start that financing process. So what that also means is, where are you getting plans? Got options. There are many places that you can actually look for plans online. Southern Living has big plan books. So you look at the floor plans, and then you can buy the construction plans for it. You have to have construction plans, and you have to have somebody who understands how to read those. But you can buy from a plan book something that you like, and then buy the full construction plans. Now, that could cost anywhere, and it just all depends on size. It's typically on a square foot size. I frankly have never ever done it. I've always used a custom plan, because the reason is it just gets more complicated. The house has to be designed for the lot that it sits on too. So you often end up having to have a draftsman do a lot of extra work. And I just really haven't. But anyway, let's assume you want to buy a Southern Living plan, 4,500 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3-car garage. That can cost you, with the full set of plans, lighting, design, and everything, $7,000 to $10,000, $15,000. All depends on the complication of what you buy. And I would always say, definitely buy the rough-in plans as well, because it really can get kind of overwhelming if you don't do it on a regular basis. Or you could go the route of having an architect design. You sit with the architect and you design from day one the entire set of plans. Now, if you do that, you just got to be fair warned. It could easily take 6 months to a year even, depending on the architect that you find, how busy they are, how busy you are, how accessible you both are. It could easily take 6 months plus to actually go through that process. The next step is it could easily cost you $25,000 to $60,000 plus, depending on, again, how complicated you get, how closely you work with them, obviously who they are. A lot of, architecture is expensive, but it's particular. It's very, very custom. So all of these things have to be considered when you're deciding how to do something, right? Let's say you got your plans. You've got your plans. The appraiser has now appraised it. You've got your construction financing all put together. Then the next thing is we just got to talk about timing. And it's a little more difficult to talk timing now than it even has been in the past, simply because we didn't have problems with getting the materials that was needed in the past the way we are now. I'm sure you've heard of this with COVID, with so much materials coming from China. You'd be surprised, but between the framing lumber and drywall and lighting, not even necessarily the fixtures themselves, but the things you don't see that makes it all work. The costs and the timing of all of the things that go into your home can really push back the timing of you having your home constructed, or any rehabbing that you're doing. It could take a lot longer to do it now, given these days and the price increases. I'm sure you've heard lumber price increases have gone up 300% in the last, say, 6 months, which is also why builders are having a hard time estimating costs, because they don't know. Is it going to go up? Is it going to continue to go up? Or they're going to have the slowdowns in it, because you've got it. It's basically can sometimes become a cluster. That's just the way it is. If your tile man is laid out because he expects to be able to get into that bathroom to lay the tile on January 1st, but the tile hasn't come in, so he can't lay it, he's going on to another job. But if he can't lay the tile, then the finishers of the plumbers can't come in and put the faucets in. If the faucets can't be put in, so you see how it rolls into each thing, and every single layer has to happen in order, and the contractors go off to something else because they've got to work every day. They've got subs they've got to pay. So all of these things go into and need to go into your thought processes of whether you're going to build, whether you're going to semi-custom build, whether you're going to custom build, or whether you're going to find the home that best meets your top needs And then maybe with time, renovate that bathroom, renovate that kitchen. And again, renovations are taking a while too. It's just the nature of the world that we live in right now. So I've talked about timing, financing, your plans. I guess the major next thing is just cost overruns. I'm finding many builders are having to go back. If they contracted to build a home, if you have questions, please let me know. If they contracted, or put them here in the comments. I'll be glad to come back to answer this because I always look back at the comments. I think that's really important. I can learn a lot of what things to talk about with you. But the cost overruns. And again, the builders can't help it. When an estimate from 8 months ago was for his lumber package to be $40,000, but when it's time to now order that lumber package, it's gone up 300%. He can't just eat those numbers. And it's going across everything. Electrical wire is a first run copper wire. I've recently learned the electrical wire has gone up 40% in last couple months. When every feature of the home has gone up in costs, you certainly can't expect the builder to eat those costs because he's in business to make a business. He's in business to feed his family. And if he can't make any money doing that, he just might as well take unemployment. But he's a private employer himself, and he can't. Self-employed people can't get that, but you get my point. So you've got to be ready for cost overruns. You got to be very diligent in using the amount of money that you've allocated for plumbing and not go over, because every little 10% go over adds up to a lot too when you're building an entire house. So these are just some of the things to think about when considering building versus buying a home here in the Nashville, Tennessee area. I can say that it's nationally being talked about consistently. Our prices have gone up quite a bit. Frankly, no different than across the country. In April, I've seen about a 12 to 14% appreciation of the same home that would have been sold at the end of last quarter. I also will say, though, now that we're at June, and Nashville is not really a cyclical kind of area where some of the homes that are in maybe Washington or, some more upper east where weather really affects it a whole lot. We're not that cyclical. Well, I had a great February. We had a great March. I had lots of activity happening here back in the fall and the winter. Typically, though, in the area of Nashville that I work, late May and June seems to slow down a little bit, and I've seen that. Now, prices drop? Heck no. But now I'm not getting 20 or 30 offers on a home. It more be like 4 to 5 if it's a phenomenal house. So it just seems to be evening out. But that is kind of typical for Nashville. People getting their kids out of school, maybe starting vacations, kind of getting in the swing of summer. And especially this year because we're finally having a little bit of normalcy throughout the country as I think things have simmered down a little bit from the pandemic. So getting back to real life, a lot of people are really happy to enjoy it a little bit. So that's kind of the list of very general list of whether you build, whether you buy. I never want anybody to walk into the building process not with eyes wide open. Nothing more fun, nothing more exciting. Make it your own, but it has a lot of headaches and timing, and you got to live somewhere while that's happening too. So all those things need to go into it. If you've got questions, please put them here. If you want to know about all things Nashville, go ahead and subscribe to this channel because every single week, especially, but this week, my editing software just didn't work with me at all, and I worked on it for 3 straight days. I couldn't get my mouth to go with the picture, and it was a mess. So I'm still working on that. If you like the live streaming, let me know what might be a good day for you, and so you could come on live, ask some questions. Love to have you. Meanwhile, got questions here? Put them here. I'm glad to recommend people, glad to recommend builders, contractors, financing, all the pieces and parts. Takes a lot of them, and you got to know the people who know the people. I know the people. This is Susan Thetford, Nashville Redefined. Join me again next time. There you go. Hi there. Thank you. Oh, can you help out with my editing? Message me. You've got my phone numbers. Please help me. WeVideo has been my friend, but I'm good at real estate. I'm not good at editing. I'd love that help. Thanks so much. Give me a text or a call. Bye. Hope I remember how to end this. Okay.